Welcome back to the Cycle Pod, episode 10, Seasonal Depression. It is getting chilly out. Grab a coat, grab a hot cocoa, come listen to the Cycle Pod where we talk about seasonal depression, also known as SAD. We go through the definition from the DSM and do a deep dive into our experiences with seasonal depression. At the end of the episode, we go through some of the things that could actually help you if you are experiencing seasonal depression. We also touch upon the election and election anxiety and depression. Right now, we are ushering in this colder season, and that is actually happening with the election. So seeing how those two different ideas of just the seasons changing as well as the election overlap, and then talking about how we work through some of these colder months as the holidays are coming up, the days are getting shorter, and some real takeaways that can actually help you in your day-to-day life. So grab the hot cocoa, bundle up. It's time to talk about SAD.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hey, it's spooky season. It's chilly season. It's winter season. It's Christmas season. It's
the sad season.
the SAD season.
It's holiday season.
Yeah.
Okay, Danny, what is SAD? What is seasonal affective disorder?
Seasonal affective disorder is a type of depression related to seasonal changes. It's recognized in the DSM-5, and seasonal affective disorder, also known as SAD, is a type of depression. It happens during certain seasons of the year, most often fall or winter. It is thought that shorter days and less daylight may set off a chemical change in the brain, leading to symptoms of depression.
Ooh, isn't daylight savings time next week?
It's coming up. Yeah, we're getting darker and darker.
Got to save that daylight.
Ooh.
What I think is actually crazy is Arizona does not change back times.
Interesting. Why? Is there a reason?
I have no idea. I don't know if it was the Navajo Indians or just the whole state
Where
of
they're
Arizona
located?
collectively were like, we're not going to change.
Yeah.
So they go from PST to CST. Or not,
MST.
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 Isn't that
Yeah.
wild?
Yeah.
The whole state is just like, we're not doing this.
Don't blame them.
Yeah. They're like, we want the sunlight.
Yeah, of course. Who wouldn't?
Yeah. Who wouldn't?
Vitamin D.
Seasonal affective disorder. What's the DSM-5?
Well, the DSM-5 is like a nice little book. It's a criteria book for diagnostic tooling. It's a really good book for psychiatrists, therapists, psychologists. It has all of the different diagnosis codes that you can utilize for billing. It also has all the diagnosis definitions and information about the diagnosis, anywhere from mental health, from like schizophrenia, bipolar, all the way to personality disorders, to eating disorders, to substance use disorders, to picking and OCD disorders. There's a wide range. It's so big.
Pages on pages.
And they come out with a new one every couple of years. Like the DSM-5 came out a couple of years ago.
If this is in the DSM-5, it's like legit.
Yeah, it's a legit
It's not just like,
diagnostic.
oh, like I'm sad during the wintertime.
No, it's like an actual diagnosable disorder, depressional disorder.
I wonder if there's like a time during the year where it like switches off, you know? It's like, oh, it's April 1st. No more seasonal depression.
That's it.
Yeah. All right. It's like the groundhog. Also to note, like we are not mental health professionals whatsoever. We talk to mental health professionals almost every day.
Yeah.
But we're not mental health professionals. We're kind of just some homies talking about mental health and really discussing our experiences and then trying to get some research together to make these topics a little bit more conversational and just digestible. But yeah, I think for me, seasonal affective disorder, when I started to really do some research on it, it almost was like a rechargeable battery that you put outside. And in the summer, you check back and that battery is fully charged at the end of the night, where during the winter times, it's not as sunny and that battery might not be fully charged. So you might just be running on a lower battery and like being aware that that is happening to you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting. When I was thinking about seasonal affective disorder, I had like one of my earliest core memories come up, which was learning about the seasons in school. And I remember...
What's a season? I'm just kidding.
The seasons of like...
They
were
it's like you had before.
kind of portrayed just using trees, you know? And then in the fall, the trees would be red and orange and yellow. And then in the spring, that'd be, you know, kind of pink and greenish. And then summer, really bright green. And in the winter, they'd just be completely dead, you know? And it's fascinating because we're also living organisms, right? And so we go through this kind of annual cycle as well in some regard. I mean, that's the whole, diagnostic.
Like
of,
hibernation?
yeah, of like we're not getting sunlight and it's disrupting our ability to secrete our hormones effectively and be happy, really, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, you're not getting that vitamin D. It's crazy when you like go into work and it's dark, and then you leave work or school and it's still dark as well.
Yeah.
It's like all the sunlight has been sucked out through the middle of the day and you've been inside all day.
Yeah, that's we've had many days like that recently, just working. We'll get here, it's like gets lighter much later in the day, like 7:30, which is typically like 7:30, and then I'm like already at the gym, and then by the time I leave here it's 6:30, it's already dark.
It's dark. And I feel like when you're in school, you have like summer vacation, so you like feel like you almost have a break in the year where there's almost like a timestamp, versus like when you're adulting, you just go 365. Like there's no real stop of time. There's no real breakage.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point, actually. Like, I wonder if that has anything to do with like how happy we got for summer as kids,
Of
like
course.
the fact that like obviously, we weren't in school anymore, but also we're just like the batteries were just 2x'd.
Actually, I do have to say, I would get sad during the summer because I was an only child. So like my home life, I was just like out like playing by myself. Like I looked forward going to school because I had friends. I was able to socialize. Like summer was not
it for you.
No.
They also have seasonal affective disorder for the summer.
Yes. And I have a really interesting fact. I just popped in my brain. I was like, I wonder when SAD was first diagnosed, like when it was actually added to the criteria. 1984. This is from Hist Biomed, the recent history of seasonal affective disorder. It was in 1984 that the term SAD was first used in a paper by Norman Rosenthal and colleagues at the National Institute of Mental Health in Maryland. So it's recent. Like this isn't like 1960 where like we had SAD. Yeah, this isn't like we had SAD during like the Great Depression. This is a new thing, and I think that also. I wonder when did we start doing daylight savings time?
That's another deep dive.
Yeah, that's a whole other deep dive. I wonder if it correlates, but
I think that just because it was like conceived as a term, I think that this is probably something human beings have been dealing with since the inception of time. Because like, if you think about it, having to like harvest food and then like ration your servings and all of that, and like the winters, and like I'm sure you learned about all that stuff in like history class, and like how during the winter a large part of like large percentage of the population would oftentimes pass away. Yeah, exactly.
Or you to eat people
from like the Mayflower, like a bunch of people get cacked. That was the whole thing of Thanksgiving, is like having a big feast to save up some fat cells for the winter time, so you don't croak due to your
until we
depression.
Eat the next person.
Yeah. Who's next on the list? I wonder if they thought about that during wintertime. Like they just...
I'm sure there's been like, I don't want to say exactly where this came from. I'm not too sure, but I was watching something the other day about where they were digging up bodies somewhere and like doing like excavation or whatever, where they get the little brush.
Analysis.
Yeah. And they were talking about like the great winter of whatever, when a bunch of pilgrims like starved and there was like a 14-year-old that was cannibalized. Yeah, girl. Yeah.
Why would you go after the 14-year-old?
I think it's probably she passed. I don't think it was like they like purposely. Yeah. Not too sure on that fact. Someone can fact check me in the comments. But I was reading up about this because I was like, why the 14-year-old? And it's just because people would pass and they would be like, okay, well, it's time to eat.
Yeah. Like our seasonal depression is just going home and doom scrolling till 12 when their seasonal depression was.
We have to eat, Cindy.
It's time to chew that mama up.
Damn.
We gotta eat.
That's so sad.
That is sad.
Or staying warm. Oh God.
Yeah, and so maybe it's our like biological firings that like from our ancestors that had to kind of deal with those like horrific sort of instances and situations that gets triggered when it does get colder and whatnot. Then we're like, damn, like we really gotta hang in there, and like that sort of ancestral fear from like having to eat Cindy or whatever is like triggered.
I just think that it's like, it's like the lack of sunlight as well that definitely affects it. Like, and being raised in New England, there would be mornings where it would just be so freaking cold. It's like you don't want to do any like physical activity. Like we are in Los Angeles, which is great because even when it's like chilly like this morning, it's like 50 degrees. But you still could wake up and go to a workout class or go hit a hike or something along those lines. But when it is dark and like freaking 0 degrees, like
wind chill is -2.
You just want to bundle up. Or if you want to go do something physical, you have to like bundle up to then go somewhere to debundle, to do activity, to rebundle.
Right.
You know?
Unless you're going to do it outside while you're bundled. I can relate to that a lot in Salt Lake City. There was just like so many snowstorms, and I remember just going to school, getting to school. It was still dark outside at like 7:50 when school started. Still like pitch black.
Yeah.
You know, and you'd be outside like waiting in line to get into school, and it's just like 0 degrees. Like your breath is like freezing as you exhale, and you're like, yeah, it's miserable.
That's when you know. Do you have any stories of you going to school in the Midwest?
Yeah, just shoveling snow was the biggest. Like it would just be like, you know, like that. You bundle up, you put everything on, and then you're like, before you
like that in itself was the work.
Yes, like
Then
it was just
grab
shoveling,
shovel.
getting everything, start heating your car up and hoping nobody steals it.
That was the biggest thing because
even
even if it didn't snow, then you still had to like scrape your car
windshield.
So we would just get like hot water sometimes.
But I
and
do
we'd just
have to
pour it on our
say
car.
the difference, because I lived in Indianapolis for 19 years almost, and born and raised, the snow was bright. You know, like it kind of had like a bright and cheeriness to it. Like when you think of holidays, you think of snow as like white and bright. But out here, when it does get darker, it's like this crisp, cool, like spookiness almost. It's like crisp. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's different.
It's just the air is different.
And do you feel like your seasonal depression, if you have it, which we can kind of dive a little bit deeper into, but do you think that it's more like environmental changes, like light as well as like cold, or do you think that there's any type of like interpersonal or like social influence that also affects things?
It's a really good question. I think that it's quite frankly both. I mean, on a biological level, obviously a lot of it has to do with your circadian rhythm, right? That being disrupted in vitamin D.
What's your circadian rhythm?
Circadian rhythm is essentially the rhythm of your sleep schedule, put simply. So like when you wake up, getting sunlight in your eyes is really good because then it triggers like 14 hours later to start getting tired, and seeing the sunset even can, like the red light from the sunset.
So you're
really
saying
help.
every morning that I wake up, I should go outside and stare at the sun?
Yeah, actually, it really helps. Maybe not directly, but like
get some sunlight.
Get some sunlight in your face.
Get some sun on your skin.
Yeah.
So that's your circadian rhythm. But I think that also there is like a interpersonal factor in that, like if you've, for example, been through a breakup, right? And you were dating this person for a couple of years, maybe you spent some holidays together, and then, you know, Halloween comes around and Thanksgiving, and all of a sudden you're spending that alone, or, you know, just with your family, and you're not with your loved one or your ex, whatever that is. Then maybe it triggers like that sort of emotion again, in conjunction with the biological factors can probably just compound the disorder.
Throw you off.
What about you? What do you think?
I really don't like Christmas because I feel like there's so much pressure around Christmas.
The happiest time of the year.
Yeah.
I really don't like Christmas.
It's not my thing. I think it's maybe like family dynamics, but around the holiday season, I just feel like there's so much stress. There's like we have to purchase gifts for people, and like it's obviously nice to give gifts, receive gifts, but there's a lot of pressure, I feel like, at times. And that in itself, like you basically have Halloween, you're into the Thanksgiving summer or Thanksgiving season. It's time. November 1st happens, and it's like just a whirlwind for 60 days. And then once New Year's is over, then you have 2 months, 3 months of like dark abyss coldness, you know? So I think during that like transitional time, like when I think of the holidays and like the winter season, I do think about Christmas, and I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, who's going to be fighting with who? What is that dynamic going to look like at the family? Like, it almost flares things up a bit. So I think for me, it's not really like the weather necessarily. It's more of like the social elements and the family dynamics.
I haven't even had, like, you bringing that up. I used to love holidays as a kid. Like, shout out to my dad and my mom. I mean, they'd made, you know, separated, but I'd have a lot of Christmases. So it was like exciting because you get to go over and see everybody. But now, like you bringing that up, like I haven't had to worry about like who's seeing who, or who, you know, who's talking about who's pregnant in the family. I haven't been home for Christmas in like 9 years.
Yeah.
And that's how, like, that's almost a decade of like, I don't know, you know, who's graduated college now. Like, I don't know who had kids.
Yeah. You're removed from those family dynamics.
Yeah, I'm really separated. And I've always, I don't want to say I've always wanted to. I was just always independent. But now I'm seeing like I'm wanting a family of my own, or I'm wanting to go back because something's missing.
Yeah.
And it's always around this time. It's like right before the holidays. The worst time in my life happens.
Yeah.
The patterns. For some reason, it's patterns.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood.
It's the best time of your
Yes, I am much better now, but it's like every October and November I end up in treatment, or like I'm trying to kill myself. You know what I mean?
And I wonder how much of that is seasonal depression.
Right.
Like, is it things are changing and there's like a change in the air and that's leading?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I think like during that time period, like October, November, that would typically be when like we would like, you know, spend time with our family and like ration and like really hunker down, you know? So if you don't have that component, I can definitely relate to that too. Just being out here in LA, it's like I want to just kind of like snuggle up and eat some comfort food with my family, you know?
I want some deviled eggs, some stuffing.
Some funeral
Deviled
potatoes.
eggs is your comfort food?
Deviled eggs? Are you kidding me? Oh my
Disgusting
God.
for me.
Shout out to Grams and Grams. Grams, I think about those deviled eggs every day. Literally, I'll be at like a family event, and if there's deviled eggs there, I'll be like, how can I make sure that people don't say I eat all of these?
Yeah. You're just like tossing them in your bag.
And then also she would make like homemade noodles, like
I'm a
from
big
scratch.
mac and cheese boy. That's like my
like
comfort
lay
food.
them out, like, and it, oh God, I can just still smell it, you know?
Yeah,
like,
that is the one thing about winter. Like, it's good food.
comfort food, yeah.
Yeah, it's good eating for sure.
Corn,
Yeah,
some rolls,
all the good food,
cheese,
all the
peas,
carbohydrates,
potatoes, ham, man.
eggs,
Bacon,
bacon, grit, sausage. The other thing that comes during this like time every 4 years, which we're experiencing this year, is an election. And
I'm just kidding.
Didn't know there's an election coming up. She's like, well,
Just kidding.
I was like, what? Yeah, an election. That, and I feel like that also like ushers in a lot of anxiety as well.
Of course. Always.
yeah.
I don't think it used to. I feel like it's just been recently. Maybe
Social
it's because
media
I've
vibes.
been like
I think it's social media.
that too.
It's
Maybe, and
social
also
media.
because I can vote now. I was as like an adult.
Yeah.
Like I started to get the anxiety, but recently I feel like it's just been hammered. Like that's all we see at this time on social media.
In the beginning, it was really fun. Whereas like the Charlie XCX coconut tree memes, and love that week. You know, it was just like giggle alerts. Even like seeing Joe Biden at the election and everyone collectively being like let that man sleep. You know,
At the election or at the debate, you mean?
the debate. I'm sorry, yeah. And then now it's like, oh, get it off my timeline.
I know. Get it over with.
Get it over with. And I fear that with 2020, it was like another 3 weeks until they like actually pick the winner, counted the votes and everything.
I know.
So there's a shot that we're rolling into December. Like, I hope not. I hope that we pick a winner and they move, you know? But
Yeah.
It's so funny you asked me that because last night my boyfriend said, so what do we find out on November 5th? I go, you think they're going to be able to count all those votes in 24 hours?
It's crazy. I don't know how they haven't developed the technology to be able to do that. Like
real
they
time.
should be able to, use encryption and a picture of your ID, maybe like your thumbprint, and submit your vote on your phone.
Well, Russia could come in and just
Hopefully
hack
we
it.
can get there. I think that's another thing that
day.
a lot of people are concerned about.
I have a question for both of you.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your vote matters?
On a local level, yes. On a presidential level, no.
I wowould say I agree with that. As a county of Los Angeles County, like as a resident of Los Angeles County, yeah, I don't think it.
There's 54% of Gen Z does not think that their vote matters.
That's scary.
Is that wild?
Yeah.
More than half of people think that their vote doesn't matter.
That's really scary. I mean, I think a lot of people have thought this way too for a while. And that's why it's like always been brought into us, go vote, you know, we need people to vote. And I don't know. It's just, it depends on where you're at. Like the swing states and like Pennsylvania and the counties, like it really just depends on where you're at.
And it's interesting because 27% of baby boomers don't think that their vote matters. 41 Gen X, 52 millennials, 54 Gen Z. So it's progressively getting like a higher percentage of individuals who just don't think that their vote matters.
Yikes. For just both.
Yeah.
Wow, that's sad. I don't know. I really think that the Electoral College is what a lot of people's issue seems to be, is because, like, for example, we're in California. It's mostly a blue state. It will always typically be a blue state. Now, there's some counties that may be red, that turn red, but a majority of all 55 of our electoral votes are
Blue.
Democratic or blue.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was looking at the map the other day on like what the poll, like the probability,
Yeah,
right?
perceived polls.
Yes. And like some of these states, they really can't, they don't know because
Right.
they're so common. They're so famous for flipping. And then one county is the mass amount of people compared to the rest of the state. So if that county wins one color, then even if the rest of the state is blue or red, it doesn't
It's a
matter.
full wash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's,
It's difficult.
It's
yeah.
difficult.
Even like being in Connecticut and now living in California, it's blue for the past 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like it doesn't really matter, you know?
yeah.
But it's like 1 out of every 10 people are losing sleep over this election.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that stat?
That statistic came from Thriving Center of Psychology.
It's sad.
1 out of 10 people is losing sleep over the election.
Yeah. Some people are
Dude,
really stressed
if
about
you're
Yeah.
this.
losing a sleep over this.
Well, you're part of the 54%, obviously.
Well, I mean, but it's not. I'm not losing sleep over it. You know, it's like there's external factors in life that you have no control over. If you're letting that affect your mental health, it's difficult.
I mean, nearly 1 in 2 Americans say it affects their mental health. 50% say that it affects their anxiety, and 25% say that it affects depression.
Yeah. It definitely gives me anxiety.
That's fascinating. So 1 in 4 people feel depressed because of the election.
20%. Yeah. 1 in 5.
Yeah, I definitely get, like, I'm anxious about this, like what is going to change as a woman, you
Yeah.
know? Like, I've watched The Handmaid's Tale, and that woman that wrote that book, and she said, like, that's how she thinks America's going to be in, you know, a couple of generations and that scares me, you know, like, to live that type of, I think that's why I'm also so fascinated with North Korea, because there's people living like that, like, right now. And we take advantage and like of our freedom, and like we just don't even know what we have, because so many people are like, oh, you're so lucky to be in the United States. It's true. Like, I don't disagree with that, because we have so many advantages. Yeah, there may be some things that are messed up or we don't agree with, but like, really, all in all, there's genocide going on, right? You know, like,
Yeah,
there's wars going
for
on,
sure.
and we get to sit here and film a podcast.
Yeah.
So I do
Thank
get
God, that's
really
privilege.
anxious around
Yeah.
this time, because I've already voted. I've already put my vote in
That's
the mail.
great.
And I just, like, I sat there for a good 2-3 hours reading up on like the what's going on in LA County, like,
That's
why.
great that you did that deep dive.
Yeah, because there's like a homeless bill, there's like things that I know really matter and that are important to me. I just worry about the people that are going to be put in places in different areas that can maybe change it, and that is a concerning factor to me, you
Right.
know.
And I think that's to your point, Danny, where it's like nationwide, maybe it doesn't matter, but then like locally it does. But then it's not even like the information is really centralized on like how, and that in itself could cause anxiety. Like, who am I voting for? What do they stand for? Like, I need to find out more information on this individual. How do I find out more information? Is it skewed information? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like my vote doesn't matter, but like, I feel like as an American, everyone says it's such a privilege, so I have to do it.
Right.
But like, I shouldn't say that it is just a requirement. Like, I should be proud of it, but
Yeah, I don't know. Politics is interesting. It's like, how much of their time are they actually researching and improving policies opposed to campaigning, you know, and trying to win the popularity contest? Like, that's ultimately, I think, where I'm just like, I try to remove myself from it, because
Yeah.
it's like, it really is just a popularity contest. And I feel like the people that you can tell are really investing in like researching the policies and making sure that they're able to really address the root cause of issues, whether it's on a county, a state, or a federal level. You can tell, you know,
Yeah.
you can tell, opposed to people that are just trying to win the popularity contests. But
yeah, and there's something to be said about ignorance is bliss in these instances.
Exactly,
You know, and
for
if there's
sure.
like 1 out of every 2 people that are getting severely anxious, 1 out of every 5 that are becoming somewhat depressed because of this, it's almost easier to check out in a way, and easier to say, well, my vote really doesn't matter. So it's easier just like a free ticket. You
I
know?
feel like it all comes down to control, because I can't all I can do is fill in little circles, right? Cast my ballot, do what I've got to show up wherever I got to show up, put it in the mail, do whatever. But like, I want something so bad, right? I want it my way so bad. And I feel like that's the issue across on both sides is we see it one way and that we don't have any grace or like.
Yeah, or gray area. We don't have this. There's like echo chambers. If it feels like you can't stand for one thing for one person and then another thing for another person.
Right.
It's like an all or nothing.
Yeah.
And then you feel like in my friend group, I feel like comfortable and safe to be able to like effectively communicate. Like, and I think all of us like are more purple, I guess, where we kind of can see both sides.
Yeah, totally.
But it's hard when you're meeting a stranger you don't know someone super well to be able to like be vulnerable and like be like, this is kind of how I feel without feeling judged or potentially like perceived as one way or the other.
Yeah, you're gonna get like canceled or ostracized or yeah, it's difficult for sure. And it is so nuanced and there is so much purple area to it, you know? It's not just red or blue in most cases. And I feel like we don't vote every 4 years. We vote like every day with our dollar, you know? We vote with our attention and we vote with like what we support on the community level as well. Like we're voting for like social progressivism and like mental health awareness, right? And what we're doing every day.
Hoorah.
So shout out to us.
Yeah, it's interesting how every 4 years this also kind of plays into like seasonal depression. I wonder if there's studies that kind of correlate the two. Because it's almost like you roll into election on the beginning of the month, even if it pushes to the middle, then we have Thanksgiving, then we have Christmas, then we have New Year's, and then you're flat in the middle of like a 8-hour day of sunlight versus a 14-hour day of sunlight.
Yeah.
You know?
I will say, just in my opinion and my perspective, that elections used to be fun. I don't know if it's because I was younger or like watching everything. It would be like, oh, who gets to win, you know? And there was a time where like that all changed. And I don't know if that was after COVID or if it was a couple years beforehand. But
social media, I think.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think the last like fun election was like 2008, like Obama versus Romney. It was
absolutely.
so diplomatic. They were so like
They
just
were cool,
respectful of one another. And it was just like
Yes.
civil, you know? And then after that, it just became like MTV, like reality TV
show.
Yeah, 2016 started that, 2020.
Did you see the that girl who did the national anthem for the third party debate? You
No.
didn't see the girl who sang the national anthem, and she was like, "This is live," and she was like, "I messed up, my bad." And it was
yeah,
live.
yeah. The she just was like, she was swearing too. She's like,
Yeah, she
I
was
fucked
like-
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they were like, "This is live." She's like, "Oh, shit." Can I start over?
Yeah,
Like,
let's run that back. But yeah, I think that that definitely affects like transitioning into a different season, the election.
Yeah.
You know, but I would love to dive a little bit more into like facts and points of topics with seasonal depression. Danny, I know that you did some research on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did some research on this. I did find that actually one of the best solutions or treatments for seasonal depression is actually what's referred to as a sad lamp.
What's a sad lamp?
A sad lamp. And a sad lamp essentially is what it's a lamp, just like one of these lamps, but it's specifically built to promote light, and they quantify light in these units called lux.
Like
LUX.
red light theory?
No, it's just like literally a light that
Red light theory?
Yeah.
No.
I don't know what red light theory is.
What's red light
I
theory?
don't know. I just heard it.
Yeah. But yeah, literally you can like if you go to your psychologist or PCP, your primary care provider, and you're like, I feel like I have seasonal depression, and you find out that you do, one of the primary things they'll diagnose to you is a sad lamp. And the lamp, my brother actually bought one because he was struggling with it in Utah, and he we didn't, there's not very much sun there, but needless to say, it has these things called lux, like I said, this unit of light, and typically on like a normal day, there's about 100,000 lux just in sunlight. The sun will radiate about 100,000, and so this light will give you at least like 10,000 units of lux.
It's pretty good.
How big is the lamp?
I think it varies. I think you can get bigger ones if you're like,
Let me see how much it cost.
Yeah. Because you also could do red light therapy as well, like light therapy as a whole.
Yeah, I think anything that's going to give you these lux, because for whatever reason, like that's the unit of like what
Yeah.
you need in order to.
Like they have like the red light face masks. They have like the red light beds as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like that's like a really great way.
Therapy lamp.
Yeah, I don't know if that will give you like the lux, but if it does.
When I was Googling, I came across red light. Remember red light therapy, blue light therapy?
Yeah, I think it's more the blue light therapy from what I understand. But at least that's what my brother got. He got this light and he would just stand in front of it for like 15 minutes every day, and it was just like a really bright
light.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, I think it's interesting that it's like 1 out of every 10 will suffer from seasonal affective disorder or SAD. And it also affects women more than men, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They're not that expensive. They're like $23.99 on Amazon.
Let's get them lux.
Let's get them. That is interesting that it affects women more than men. Why do you think that might be?
On why seasonal affective disorder affects women more than men?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That could be a lot of different reasons.
Do you think it's a social element? Like people want to be less social, and women tend to find intimacy and connection through communication versus shared action?
Probably that.
That's
And
a good
like you
theory.
think about like as a woman during these seasons, right? You're usually like cuddling with somebody, right? It's like, what do they say? Like it's cuffing season, and where it's like summertime is like hot girl season, where they're out, like single, whatever. So I feel like if you're at home, I don't know. I always feel better if I'm cuddling with somebody. Like if I'm alone in bed, like I think it's just sad. I don't know. It could also be because of hormones, women's hormones, and cycles that they go through. That could be another factor that goes into it with hormone imbalances and how deeply, especially thyroid issues too, and how that affects women.
All interesting points.
Very interesting theories.
So if someone is experiencing seasonal affective disorder, seasonal depression, let's get some lux.
Yeah.
I think another thing that I like to do any time of the year, but I guess specifically around this time of the year, it happened to me last week where I was just kind of feeling like a little bit less energized. And I was like, damn, I'm kind of feeling like a dip right now. So I set up like friend dates, like almost every day after work, and being able to also like be strategic about like when you may be feeling that depleted like energy. And depending on your social battery, I think it's also like you should try to be aware that you may be going through this, or at least know that if you are experiencing like seasonal depression, it's going to usually come back. So what are like tips and tricks that you could start to incorporate to be able to prepare for this time, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it's like social interaction. I know always kind of like gets me moving.
Yeah.
Like after work, I'll go to work out, and then I'll go hang out with a friend for 2-3 hours. I'll go home, shower, and then I'm in bed, right? Versus like after work, kind of just like sitting there scrolling or watching and maybe feeling more isolated. So being able to like know that this time is coming, maybe even being easier on yourself as well. So instead of like go during the summer, constant go, like realize that you're going to pull back, and it doesn't have to be like grind season all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that I've recently implemented that's helped a lot is just waking up earlier and going outside in the first part of the day. So I'll see the sunrise every morning and just like walking or running outside. And that's helped like immensely. I've been doing that for about a week now because I definitely suffer from seasonal like affective disorder, especially when I'm in Utah, but even here too with like the lowered sunlight. I could definitely just feel a dip in my mood. And so just waking up and breathing fresh air, spending time outside, looking at the sunlight at the horizon is supposed to be really good for you as the sun is rising. And it gives you those lux, gives you that red light as well. And I think that at least for me, has had an immense augmentation of my mental state over the past week or so.
Yeah. And I think I like the idea of ebbs and flows. And you can't always be flowing. Like, it can't always be summertime and you be out and you be going. Like, there has to be an ebb. And I feel like the winter months is a bit of an ebb. It's not for everyone, because sometimes they have like that, reversed seasonal depression where it's happening in the summer. But you need to have the ebbs with the flows, and in life and with seasons.
And like not resisting that honestly is the biggest thing, because if you like welcome the ebb, it actually can be very restorative too. It's an opportunity to really like connect with yourself and your loved ones that are nearby, maybe not the ones that are far away, but just to kind of go internal and refine that inner dialogue and some of your habits and restore yourself.
And you appreciate the flow when it happens then. Like, there's an appreciation of the other side, where when summer does come, it's like, hell yeah.
Embrace the ebb.
Embrace the sad.
And get some light.
Get some lux.
And maybe a cuddle buddy.
Re-downloads, dating apps. No.
Sweater season
is right. So if you're experiencing seasonal affective disorder or SAD, you should probably see a mental health professional. We could help you get connected to a mental health professional. We are growing a mental health and media company, and our goal is to connect individuals with quality care and, more importantly, affordable care. So if you are experiencing some type of anxiety or depression, whether it's around the elections, whether it's around just the seasons changing, holidays are coming up, family dynamics are going to be shifting and maybe flaring up. So if you need some support, please hit the link in our bio. You'll get connected with a care coordinator, and we will help you find the care that you need.
I just want to go through this list really quickly. Here are some things you can do to help with SAD in addition to the sunlight and the exercise and your social connection, therapy, and medication. That is another huge that can help you identify and manage stressors and improve your relationships and your relationship with the seasonal affective disorder. And medication, antidepressants, can help correct chemical imbalances that may contribute to SAD. SAD can be misdiagnosed, so it's important to get proper evaluation from a medical professional. A healthcare provider may perform a physical exam, order lab tests, or ask you about your symptoms and behavior patterns. If you or a loved one are experiencing a crisis, please dial 988.
Thanks for listening. Break the cycle.
Guys, let's help us help each other break cycles.
We'll see you next week.